moment and ask yourself this question. Those of you who have children and you knew that this was your last day on earth, what advice would you give to your children? If you could give them some advice, and this was going to be your last moment, you could give them some advice, what would you tell them? Right? Some of you would say, take care of your brother, or take care of your family, or do something with the house, or I always wanted you to, get this degree, or whatever it may be. I want you to think about that for a moment. And even if you are younger, this was your last day and you have your best friend, and you could tell your best friend something. Say, you know what, I'm about to die. I want you to remember this one thing about me, or I want you to do this one specific thing. What would it be? Now I'll read the verse to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ وَيَعْقُوبُ يَا بَنِيَّ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى لَكُمُ الدِّينَ. And remember that the parting advice of Ibrahim to his children and the parting advice of Yaqub to his kids was, Ya Bani, O our children, Allah has chosen for you what the religion is. فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Make sure you do not die unless you're in a state of being a Muslim, or unless you're in the state of submission and surrender to Allah. This was the parting words or the parting advice that Prophet Ibrahim and Prophet Yaqub were giving to their children. Now keep in mind something. The Quran is a summary of incidents that took place. So it's not like they just said this and nothing else. This is the super summary of the conversation that was probably taking place. And sometimes it's not even direct speech. It's not exact words that they were using. It's indirect speech. Many scholars have explained this. Indirect speech explaining the gist of what they were saying to their kids. What are they trying to tell them? They're saying that, remember, the most important thing in your life is this deen, and Allah has chosen for you. Make sure that you stay firm on the path of Islam, because there's nothing more important than that. Now, whatever answer you had to yourself, I would want to tell my children this, or I would want to tell my best friend this. If you were to switch it around and you asked your kids, you're away privately, no one's allowed to talk to them, you're not allowed to talk to them. If you ask the kids, based upon your parents' behavior in life, what do you think their parting advice would be? And they're going to give you a very different answer than you would give yourself. You know why? Because the way in which you behave and the way in which you interact with people, they're going to assume that this, my parents, they always told me I should go to medical school. My parents, they always told me I should become successful and become wealthy. My parents always told me, make sure you take care of your aunt. My parents always told me, make sure you invest in gold, because the economy, you can't trust the dollar. Or there's always something that people put emphasis on, and they repeat it over and over and over again. And when you keep hearing that, you say, you know what, that's got to be the most important thing that they're thinking about. Ask like a 9-year-old. What do you think your parents would say? The most important thing before they die? Maybe it's, I got to clean my room. I should always clean my room, or something like that. You'll get different answers. The point is that if you really believe that this is going to be the advice that you should be focusing on, then you shouldn't only die by it, but you should live by it. You should live by what you plan on dying by with your parting advice. Because your parting advice when you die, if it contradicts what you've been living by and what you've been telling everyone, something is not right. It won't resonate properly. It won't actually go. And that's why we need to really focus, and we need to think, what is the most important thing in our life? And it's supposed to be Islam. That's why I didn't want to give you the verse first. I want you to think about it yourself. And if it's not, we need to make some adjustments in our lives. Because I tell you, I promise you, brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, I get calls every single day from around the country, in fact, from around the world, of people who did not live up to this in their life, and their children have lost their Islam. And now they're crying and they say, I wish I could somehow bring them back. But, of course, they're responsible adults. But if you didn't live that in your life, in your household, that was not a priority. You prioritized everything in this dunya except Islam. And you have to ask yourself, did you fulfill your responsibility? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those people who always put the deen before the dunya. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.